So today's a special episode. As you can see, we're in a new location. We've been hosted by Tim and Wes from the Nani Studios. And what we're going to be going over is how they roll, how they was created, and what makes the Nani Studio the Nani Studios. Welcome to Nani Talks, the only anime podcast from the man them. I'm your host, TC Division.
Quantum One.
Slip.
Tim.
Wes.
We have the trailblazing collectives who are visionaries within the animation scene. They've worked with some of the biggest brands. They've done music videos, games, animation. So without further ado, welcome to Nani Talks, the BAFTA-nominated powerhouse, the Nani Studios.
Thank you.
So Tim, Wes, let's start with where did this magic begin? Where did the spark begin?
For the studio?
For the studio.
To be honest, it was all kind of like quite organic. I think we all had like slightly different journeys getting into animation, but the one common thing for all the founding partners was that we wanted to find or carve out some time for ourselves to be creative and produce ideas for ourselves. And that kind of caramelized in this idea of we should get a studio space together. So it was like space probably not that bigger than this area squared that we rented in London Fields. So myself, Wes, Sam Taylor, James Devine, Bjorn, Eric Ashim, and originally a guy called John Top and Fritzy Nicholas, right?
Was Fritz? Oh, we rented the studio.
Yeah, we rented the studio together.
Right.
And it was just like a place where, like, if you weren't, when you were not freelance, you go and just make your own stuff. At the time, Bjorn and Sam were making a short film. Me and Wes had just finished making a short film. And it kind of like escalated from there, basically. Me and Wes had director signed together, and then a friend of ours had a production company and said, we've been given this opportunity to pitch on an animated music video, and we don't do animation. Would you be interested in doing it? Spoke to Wes. It was kind of like anime inspired. So we pitched on this video. It was for Porter Robinson, a track called Easy, and it happened just before Christmas. And I said to the rest of the guys in the studio, like, you know, if we win this, we have a studio. You know, Bjorn's an art director, Sam's an animator, James is an animator. We could just like take it in, just do it ourselves. And we won the pitch, and that was sort of like the beginning spark, I suppose, to start in the studio.
Yeah, we worked on that for like what? It was about 2 months, which is really short for the video. It was like a 3-minute music video. There was about 5 of us, and then there was probably, we hired 3 or 4 more people.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big team at all. So we were working like crazy hours.
No producer.
No producer or anything like that.
So am I right in saying that the team was just 5 people in the beginning? Like how many people in the Fields office? How many people did you have in there?
It was John Top who worked on the project, myself. So it was 6. Fritzy didn't actually work on it. She was a producer. She was working with a partner at the time on some projects.
But she was just renting the space with us.
She was renting the space. She was never really there, actually. And then
I took over a desk, actually.
Oh, is that right? Okay,
yeah.
So 6 of us, and then we hired Job. And then I think Max helped comp on it. So I think that if you looked at the credits, there's probably about 10 people or so on it, maybe a bit less. But the studio space was 6 people initially, yeah. And it was kind of like, at the time, Sam and Bjorn had just finished their short film that they were making in there at the time. So we kind of finished Easy, and we had these 2 projects, and we were like, these are 2 really big projects. Like, if we put these out under like some kind of brand name, we've got the beginnings of a studio. Like, we're just going to come with like a 1-2 punch, and people will be like, where are these? Did these guys come from? Like, they're from nothing to these 2 cool projects. So that's what we did, and it kind of had the impact that we were hoping for initially. I mean, it wasn't like what we are today, but it kind of like, it made people in our kind of community, I suppose, like of indie animators, like go, oh, there's this new thing that's popped up.
It was actually 3 films because it was drawing inspiration as well.
Yeah.
But
that didn't come out under the brand name of the line.
No, it did.
What? We put it on the site, but it
was okay. It wasn't a launch film.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. But it was, but I think the biggest, it's not like we just, I guess, had these films that were like, it was more how we worked together, which made us make that decision. Because when we did that Easy music video, we had such a good time working on it. I mean, me and Tim were joking about how there's this school in France called the Gobelins, and they do these like incredible films that come out their school. And then we were joking about like, this is our Gobelins film, like this is our team, you know what I mean?
Nice.
So I think if we worked so well together, we're like, we should just continue doing it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you guys got the studio, was that always the plan, or
No.
so it was like do your own thing? You was kind of just like renting out space as like individual animators, and then that's how you guys came together.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So me and Tim, we went to university together. And then when we finished uni, I was working in Scotland for about 2 years. And when I came back, Tim had this script idea that he was working on with a guy called Steve Stamp. So I don't know if you know People Just Do Nothing. So he's like one of the writers.
You met him earlier. He was here.
Yeah.
That's he's Steve's in People Just Do Nothing.
Yeah, now you see it. Yeah. It's like Clark Kent. But yeah,
he was wearing glasses.
Yeah. See, Superman's disguise works, man. But like, he wrote that story, and I came back to work with Tim on that project. But it was more, I think we were just, when we started, we were literally 5-6 guys that we just loved making stuff. We weren't really thinking about this now. This almost happened, I wouldn't say by accident, but it wasn't
organically. I'd say.
Yeah, organically. So,
I think it felt like going that energy of like being at school or higher education, where like everyone was just like, we want to be here. You know what I mean? At secondary school, whatever, like everyone's like, I want to get the fuck out of here. And then higher education, everyone's like, no, I want to be here. I want to do something. And it was like that kind of energy I loved. And then we had a gap from like university or whatever for a couple of years, but I think we all found each other and realized that actually that's what we all want. You know, it's kind of, animations can be quite lonely, you know what I mean? Like you're just sitting at your desk, and if you're at home, you know, like you want to be able to show something to someone, or you want to take a break and have a coffee and look over at someone's desk and be like, oh, that's cool. And like the moment I got that studio space with these guys, my work went like, I just learned so much. And I had the best advantage in that room because I was the worst. So I got to learn from all these people around me, which was amazing. Like, and I think being around like-minded people is just what we all craved. And so it wasn't planned, but it's no surprise that we ended up where we ended up. You know what I mean?
That's super cool, man. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. All right. So for us, I know that your journeys for a lot of the viewers is going to be something that obviously, I know that you guys from London Fields, I feel like we want to go a little bit further back. So there's obviously going to be a lot of young animators watching this. What was the journey from like your childhood to deciding I'm going to go to, did you both study animation at university?
Sort of, yeah. Mine's quite different to Wesley's, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
very different, yeah.
So one of you, take it away.
I feel like yours are more interesting.
How did you reach
Mine's
that?
more interesting?
More surprising, I think.
How did I reach? Well, I didn't have a formal education in drawing or animation. I grew up like loving Saturday morning cartoons and comics, and I used to draw my own comics when I was young. Like, I think the oldest drawing I have was when I was like 9 years old, trying to do a comic. And
is that the bunny, or is it before that?
no, that was maybe like 4 or 5 years before the bunny. The bunny came at 13 years old or something. So,
Okay, cool.
A rabbit, guys.
Rabbit.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank
Apologies.
you. Yeah. So so I was drawing a lot, and I was doing a lot of comics and stuff. But I never pictured myself doing any animation or having a career in anything. And even like up until I was 20, I think like when I went to college, like around 18 or something, like I started to kind of get like a grasp of, oh, actually people make these things for real. So I had in my head, oh, I want to make a comic one day or a series, but I never really believed in it, if that makes sense. So it took a few years after college. I was working in retail, and I was working in retail up until about, I was 26, 27. So it took me a while to get started. And once I made that decision, I made a decision where it was like, I remember watching, I don't know if you guys know an animator called Eric Goldberg. So he animated the genie in Aladdin.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So he did like a line test, which is like he had a recording of Robin Williams on a comedy set, and he did this line test of him, you know, talking. He was talking about it, and he showed the line test and everything, and he was saying how, yeah, I'm really proud because I got to make Robin Williams laugh, you know. And something switched me. I'm like, I have to do that.
Right.
So it wasn't even an anime or anything like that. That was like the tipping point where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to speak to. But I have to do animation.
And this is you at 27?
This is me at 27. I'm like, people thought I was crazy because they're like, no, wait, why would you, you know, because I already tried going to university. Okay. I did a multimedia course and I dropped out because I hated, I couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
So when I did that, I started looking for courses and stuff, and I found one, Central St. Martin's, and I went there and applied. And I was like, again, I had no experience in animation. I've been drawing in my entire life, but I had no experience in animation. So I worked really hard that year, went to life drawing classes, went to concept art trips in Prague and all this kind of stuff just to boost my drawing. Because I just had, I think the people I met on the course.
Are we taking notes here? I'm taking notes.
Oh, right, yeah, no, because when I found the course, I went to the end of year show. And that year, for some reason, they had like...
It was a good year, innit? Yeah.
It was incredible. They had, I can't remember her name, Song. She works for UASA, like she's art director. So UASA's like, you know...
Mind Game.
Mind Game, the studio that does Dan the Dan.
Yes.
Like she was in that. In that year. And then there's a guy that we know, like me and Tim are friends with, called Christian Antonelli. Incredible animator, incredible artist. Like he's probably one of the best I know. So that year had that caliber. And I'm like,
right.
I'm not this good. So in my head,
you had to get
the next year I had to train. I was good, but I wasn't on that level, I don't think. So yeah, so for the next year I was training. I even visited the university a couple of times, bothered the tutor there. He was like, he couldn't understand why I just kept coming to the university. I think I was annoying him, but I was so inspired by like people animating in the desks and stuff. So I was a bit pushy. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think I was being pushy at the time, but I was being pushy. And then
I think you need to be though, right? If you're that inspired by it, like you want it, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't so much. I was just excited to be in the space.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
It's a sort of different generation because now, like, you know, you guys will walk into our studio and it's just like computers and Cintiqs, and I don't know, maybe that seems exciting to look at, but like our generation, we were learning on paper.
Yeah.
So you imagine like we've never seen animation before, and then you walk into a room and there's like boxes everywhere, like
with the circles and the
and like
paper.
stacks of paper and like blue pencils, and like
you get to see the magic.
Yeah, and people are just sitting down and animating.
And you're hearing the paper like flicking stuff, and it was like
there was a kind of like visceral experience to it that was just like intoxicating. And I think you know that's probably true of a lot of animators of our generation. It's just like if that turned you on for whatever reason, that was the thing that like made you want to be there. And imagine going from nothing, like, you know, working in retail or whatever, and then seeing people just like drawing all day long on paper, like that's going to do something to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, and you'd only see those light boxes on TV, on a Disney making of or something, where, you know, you got the old guy talking about it, and I'm like, I'm in the room with these people. So I just wanted to be in there. Like, so by the time I had my interview, the teacher was like, oh, how do we get rid of you, sort of thing. I was like,
you better let me on that.
But then he was joking about it. He said, looked at your portfolio. He said, I don't understand why you've been in retail for so long. It's like, of course we'll let you on the course, because you needed 3 years experience or 3 years animation experience, and I didn't have any of that. So I took a chance and they let me in. And that's where I met Tim on that course. So Yeah, and then I think from there got to know each other. Like, had just a lot of the same interests, and and Tim was probably the only person. You're the only person I stayed in contact with from there, really.
Yeah,
like,
maybe. Yeah.
So
I think that would be a good time for you to step in and say, how did you get there?
yeah.
I mean, I did so bad at school. Like I was saying, like I flopped my GCSEs because of Metal Gear Solid 2. I can't blame that game. But like I didn't do well at school, and there was a point where I remember my friend was quite ill when he was in hospital, and I remember it's like one of those things where you think, damn man, I've got to think about life. It's quite short. Like, and I was visiting with one of my friends, Alex. And he was actually studying at St. Martin's.
I remember Alex.
Yeah, Alex Boker, yeah. And he was doing a product design course. And he had it all mapped out. He was like, I know what I want to be. I want to he loves Sony products. He's like, I'm going to do product design. I'm going to go and try and work for Sony. And I remember just being like, fucking hell, man. I'm just like, I'm so lost. I don't really know what to do. And he was like, if you could do absolutely anything, any job, what would it be? And I was like, probably work in animation at like Pixar or something like that. And he's like, well, try and do that then. And it was that moment where I was like, right, I should try. So then I went and looked at like, how do you get into animation? And I think I was at college redoing my GCSEs. And I think I went to see like some student advisor thing, and they there was some system they looked up and they're like, okay, yeah, there are courses in the UK, you can study animation. I was like, oh my God, like, wow. They got a print out, and then it was like, these are the qualifications you need. So like it's like 5 GCSEs with over a C to get onto a course to do A-levels at art, and then you can go and study animation. And I was like, all right, that's how I've got like a bit of a roadmap. The one mistake I think I made is that the moment you decide you want to do anything, you need to start doing that thing. You need to start teaching yourself. And that's the biggest mistake I think I made. So I just assumed once I got onto the course,
that's when
they would teach me. And that's actually when you need to be your own teacher at these places. So I did a course, to skip ahead a bit, I got onto a course doing digital media, and it was a foundation degree. So it meant I could do 2 years of learning digital media, but the pathway animation. And that's where I met Steve Roberts, who ran the course that me and Wes eventually went on to. And he was teaching a module in drawn animation. I actually, at this point, wanted to do CG. I thought I was going to be a 3D animator.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
But I loved the moment you start flipping the paper and then you do a walk cycle and then you test it and you're like, my drawing is moving. Like, that is a fucking crazy feeling. And then they also ran life drawing courses. And I really enjoyed all the life drawing. And I drew a lot when I was a kid, but there was a big period where I just didn't. And I was mainly copying. So if you asked me to draw something from the top of my head, I couldn't do it. I mean, I still struggle to do it, to be honest. But it wasn't something that came naturally to me. So on that course, I realized I don't want to do CG. I want to do drawn animation. So then there was an option to do my third year, or I could get the full degree.
And so is this so this is a 3-year course?
It's a 2-year, I could drop out after the second year, but I would get a foundation degree.
Okay.
So it was I don't know, whatever.
And by now you two are together?
No, so I dropped out and did my third year. I didn't do my degree. I did it's called a postgraduate's diploma, the course that we went on to. And you could only get it on that course technically if you had a degree, because it's a postgraduate's.
Right.
So thankfully I applied. I thought, why am I going to go and do a third year, make a film? I don't know anything about filmmaking. I'm just going to make a bad film and I'm going to have to write a massive dissertation. I was like, that. So I thankfully got into the same course that Wes did. And that was a year of just animation. There was no coursework or anything like that. I was you do week 1, bouncing balls, week 2, flower sack, week 4, walk cycle, week 5, lip sync. You were just drawing all day. You were just practicing animation. And that was I think me and probably me more than Wes, but I think we looked back at that course a few years later once we realised the education that was out there, like at the Gobland that Wes has previously mentioned, like where they're really getting taught like the nitty gritty of how to be a sick animator. I look back at that course and thinking a few years after, it's been like, oh, that course weren't good enough. Like we should have been learning X, Y, and Z. But actually, we're thinking about it with a bit more perspective. Like it was so important to me, like that course. Like I really think having that opportunity and letting it just inspire me, and meeting Wes, who I ended up like setting up a company with, is just like I hold really dear now.
Really sounds like what sounds familiar between both your stories. You both had to take that leap of faith because there was no direct line to say, yeah, animation is the way. You was in retail, you was using a whole different course, and then lines just kind of met up.
Yeah, that's the sad thing I think about what the education system does in the UK is it doesn't teach you about commercial arts at all. The UK has been very famous for producing animation since the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, we used to make feature films here. Roger Rabbit was done here. You know, like a lot of those, Amblin, all those films, they were done here. Like Spielberg had his animation studio here. Like it was really, the commercial industry was really big here. Like you're not taught that at all. You know, even to this day, like all, you know, when they talk about all these Hollywood films, all the CG's done in the UK.
But this is why we felt it was important to get you guys, because there is, you're right. And it's like, there is a lot of people out there. Like you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, there's a lot of people, artists drawing out there. There's a lot of animators out there, but it looks like there's a disconnect between access and knowledge of how to even step into the industry. But one thing that we noticed was that when we do look for animation studios within the UK, you are the first people that we're coming up against, which was like a beautiful thing to see. Do you know what I mean? That you guys are like, I mean, Wes is pretty much from the same area as us. And whereabouts are you from?
I'm from West London.
West London. So, I mean, again, it's like, everything's interlocked and interconnected. Like we're all born and bred in London, and there's a lot that can be gained for the youth from seeing your journeys. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a big, big thing. And I think what you're saying is correct, that there is so much history to learn from that we're not taught. And if it was taught, maybe there'd be more animators in the UK.
100%. And I applaud you for your efforts in that as well. It's really important because, you know, when I'm at school and like I'm kind of interested in art, I'm being told like, maybe be a graphic designer, or maybe be like do web design or whatever. Like
I was told, don't be.
I mean, it's terrible. Like, you know, like
I always grew up hearing artists don't make no money.
Yeah, artists don't make no money.
I grew up with that saying.
But this is the sad thing. It's like, because in Europe and all these other countries, like they're being taught like the opposite and being told that you can go and study it. So imagine you're a kid being like, I want to go and make cartoons. Your mum and dad would be like, yeah, go on then. Go be my guest. Here's... Yeah. You know, like the art, which is, the thing is that's annoying is that the UK is so famous for art. Central St Martin's is like an art school that's like hundreds of years old, and like everyone from the fashion has come out of that school, like graphic design, product design, like what's his face who designed all the Apple stuff, like all these guys, they're from that, and like we've got like huge famous fine artists, commercial industry.
Yeah.
How that hasn't got into the education system to be taught like, here's your pathway to the arts. Yeah. You don't have to become like a fine artist. Yeah, I agree. Like if you want to become like the next Damien Hirst, like you're maybe gonna have a few lean years, you know what I mean? But like if you want to go and work in the film industry, go do it. There's loads. And
there's a perception that the industry is in America.
Yeah.
And not in the UK.
Or it's not for you. Like it's hidden and it's not.
But no teacher ever said to me, yeah, it's there, but don't worry. Like you're just not even told it's there. You know what I mean? Like
it's almost like it was looked at within my family anyway. It was almost looked at like saying I wanted to become a rapper. It was the same kind of nuance. Like, oh, you want to be an artist? Oh, you want to be a rapper? Like same kind of vibe there. Like that. There was this, and I think it was like a situation where essentially we're looking at it like the chances of you becoming a famous rapper, or the chances of you becoming a successful artist was this much.
Yeah.
Just go become an electrician.
Yeah, because when you exactly, because when you think of director, in your mind, you're thinking, right, Spielberg, you're thinking James Cameron. But it never occurred to me that these little adverts on TV is done by a director. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's when your family does. I know I can speak for my family. My parents, especially my mum, was just against me doing it. Because, again, she's worried. She doesn't have anyone around her that's done that before. And now her son's telling her at 27, he's trying to become an animator. Like, what are you doing, sort of thing? So I think once I, actually did my first job, and that was in Scotland, it was a film on The Illusionist. When I came back, my mum said I was wrong. And I didn't even start the company or anything. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I was just scared because I haven't seen anyone do this before. And I'm like, I wasn't even making a lot of money then, but she was like, you're happy doing what you're doing. So I didn't even get to, the levels we are now. Mum was like, no, I was wrong. I didn't see it. And now that I see how happy you are doing it, and I hope it continues.
And you know what's interesting about Wes's story as well is that he's got a big family, and his nephew Ashan was kind of coming of age at the time when Wes was getting into the industry. Ashan now thinks having an animation studio is the most normal thing in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so normal that he probably would never even want to enter it. You know what I mean? It's not even, there's no mystique around it actually, but now Ashan and your extended family, you've normalized that in your family.
I mean, even when we was growing up, and I was like, what? He was 5,
I'm not saying
5,
actually, 6. That's a really
He would
crazy
say to me,
thing,
it doesn't matter what the animation is. Oh, uncle, did you do that? He'd keep asking, did you do that? Did you do that? And I'm like, I'm watching Dragon Ball. Did you do that? No. I wish I did.
Yeah.
If I did, we would be living here. Yeah. But it, again, like Tim is saying, it just normalized it for him. And it's not about him doing it, but it's about him seeing, or the kids seeing.
Or going to his friends at school, I did this thing. And he's had, we did a project for Corey Kenshin, a famous YouTuber, gamer guy, incredible guy. And we got asked to do this project. I'm an old man now. I don't know about YouTubers. And we said to, you asked Ashan, have you ever heard of Corey Kenshin? He was like,
Yeah.
His mouth.
Now you realise the intensity of the project.
We asked him to, once we started doing the project, we were like, Corey, is it all right if Ashan comes and says hello? He walked in, it was in the meeting room, he walked in, Ashan's jaw was on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And it's that kind of, again,
this boy talks a lot. He's got a lot to say for himself. Listen, young man. But
he was speechless.
Speechless.
Wicked.
When Corey came off the phone, tears, and he's trying not to cry. Do you know what I mean? And then he was like, "Oh, do you think he would put my name in the film?" Asked Corey. He's like, "Yeah." So his name's in one of the scenes and stuff.
It's like in the background or something.
Yeah, he was famous he was good on TikTok for a while.
Yeah.
So girls are at my DMs. I'm like, that's not why we did it. That's not the reason why.
That's cool as well, though.
I mean, it's cool, but it makes me laugh.
I mean, as an uncle, you've done your duties.
Yeah. I got some cool points for a couple of years.
But now he can boast about it to his friends. They can go, so I know someone whose thing has a animation studio,
it's being spoken about.
It's not just the immediate family. It's going to the community. It's going to it's spreading out, and that's so important, man. I never knew anyone whose dad or brother or anyone who worked in that industry, and you just know one person, it normalizes it. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess it's different now. I'm going to really sound like an old man, but the internet can, with research, you can see it being out there a bit more. Whereas I guess when we were coming up, maybe Blogger, when we were studying, was the first thing where people could share their work online and stuff like that, and it was a bit more open. But
then it went to Tumblr.
Yeah, but I think it seems normal now for either people who I know or Wes knows, and I think that is really important. And I think you guys, what you're doing with the podcast and getting it out there, it's normalizing it for people,
Yeah.
Okay. So we all came together as friends, organically, to form the line. Why the line? What's the meaning behind the line?
The name.
The name.
It's not that deep. Basically, we had these two projects that we were let's put it under the brand name or something, and we had a document where we were let's all just pitch names. there was some madness in that. There was like the
Studio
cafe,
Studio
Budio.
There's some dead names, man. But
terrible, like
Studio Bibli or something.
there was one that was something boobies.
yeah, like big wet boobies or
Yeah, we
something
won the
like
last
that.
list, yeah.
It was so dumb, and then like
It's a proper boys' room, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it was just like trying to, I guess trying to
Probably
make
got
people laugh,
cancelled
and
now,
it was
isn't
like we actually need a name, and then in the end we couldn't decide on one, so it was like the projects were like due to come out, and we needed something, so I sent an email out to everyone, like quite passive aggressively, being like, the room number of our studio was Studio 13, so I was like, we're going to be called Studio 13. Unless anyone has any major objections, that's what we're going to be called, and I'm going to draw a line under it, like that, and that was it. Like the line, there's a line in the sand, like that's it. We stop in, and it was me and Sam who were like probably the most passive aggressive out of the group, sitting in a room together. That email got sent out, and then he saw the email and was like, "I quite like the line," and I was like, "Oh my god, bro, I've just literally sent an email out, but." The line is quite a sick name. So then I sent an email out straight away being like, actually, we really like the name The Line. Is everyone on board?
everybody was on board with that.
But isn't there a famous...
Let's see. Go on, tell the story. I've got receipts, so I'm good.
I've got a screenshot
No,
of it.
but I understand why I understand the misunderstanding. But if you look at the time codes and everything, then you'll see my point.
All right. What I'm alluding to is like there was one person who objected to it.
Allegedly.
If you want
Actually,
to make...
it's not even true. I didn't object to it.
All right,
Go on,
anyway,
go on.
I can't remember what it said anyway, but it was like it was like from Wes being something like, I don't like the line or something like that.
No.
What did it say?
So what happened was they put Studio... So because Tim sent out an email saying Studio 13, and then straight afterwards, he sent The Line. And what I must have sent an email, a message at the same time as Studio 13 saying, "Oh, this sounds a bit generic."
For Studio 13.
For Studio 13. So if you look at the time codes, it's exactly the same time.
Yes, but it came after the...
But it's Gmail, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
So
Gmail.
they're thinking, this is Gmail a while ago. It's not like now AI and things,
Yeah.
right? So they're thinking, I'm rejecting to The Line, but I'm like, I love The Line. So I've gone around for years being like, yeah, we all agreed to this name and whatever is and that.
And
And then
like, no, you didn't.
Tim found the email and he showed it to me. Then I was like, wait, what? I'm like, that's not what happened. Then he sent that, that Kanye gift where he's like,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, no, this is not. I'm like, no, I did agree to it. So I went back into the email thread, but I couldn't find it. So I'm like,
I had the...
yeah. So then I went back into my emails and somehow it came up again and I found it and I was like, then I showed them, I'm like, no, I did agree to it. It's just that when the emails came in the timeline. So even with our we had a 10-year party, like 2023, and we put all pictures up and people kept coming up to me. I was getting pissed off actually. But like, they're like, oh yeah, you're the only one who disagreed. I'm like, I didn't disagree. So no, we should put it up on the board. Like, just show it. And I'm like, we're not doing that. Oh, but it'll be fun. We're not doing that. Once we start putting in ranking like this,
Yeah.
like,
Never letting the
do you
job
want to keep
run.
your job? You're not doing that. Do you know what I mean? So, it was.
So that actually brings me to a question is, obviously you guys are friends and coming together as a bunch of friends. And I mean, it was never supposed to be a business, but it's become a business now. So how does that actually transpire? Like, who's the dad? Who's the mum? How has it worked? Because obviously friendships and business, family and business, it's always quite hard, right? So how has that transpired for you? Like, what is the biggest lessons? What would you say to a bunch of young entrepreneurs or young animators out there that are doing the same kind of situation as you guys? What would you say? How does this marriage last?
You want to start?
How does it last? I think we're still. I would say that it's not an easy, like you have your ups and downs and it's very hard to get 6 people. The one thing when we started is that 6 of us were all trying to make decisions all at the same time. And we had to kind of like appoint people. So I think at first it was you, Sam and James, and then it was Sam and James. But definitely having like that sort of hierarchy in it, if that makes sense, and which can be quite hard. Because it's almost like, well, if you're making decisions, then who am I and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, that needs to happen because
It's like a football team, innit? Everyone's got to play their position.
If you're all trying to make decisions, nothing gets done. But it is like, you know, like, I suppose it's that communication aspect. And I'm not saying we've always been great at it. Like sometimes people would think things or feel things and not saying at the right times. But it is one of those things that you just have to work at. And most people that we speak to, I think they're very surprised that every time we say, oh, 6 of us or 5 of us are running a company, they're like, 6 of you? How long? And we're like, oh, 10 years now. Like, you've been together for 10 years. You know what I mean? So, and I guess it's something that it's still evolving and we're still working on.
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, describing it as a marriage is kind of like, makes sense because it kind of is. I mean, like, there's the commitment I have to the rest of the founders and partners is significant. You know what I mean? In terms of like, we're all tied together to keep each other afloat, you know, essentially like mortgages and we've all got families, like we're committed to each other in a way that is similar to a marriage. And I think just to go back a little bit, like it wasn't anything that we really wanted to do initially. Like we wanted to be a collective of directors. And, you know, I don't know if you know much about the commercial industry, but like the model is you get represented by a production company and they find you work and then you're just the directors. And I think I thought I probably knew more about that world than I did when we first started getting into it. So I was like hell bent on like, we should be repped. And then we started working with a company who wasn't quite a production company, but they had ambitions to kind of rep people. And they were like a young company who had similar like ambitions that we had, like, and it just felt like a good synergy. But if we've got our own ideas of what we want to be and they have their own ideas of what they want to be, it's not going to, we found that we weren't pulling in the same direction. So that didn't work. And it was like, if we're going to be, we want too much control and we can't rely on another company to give that to us. So the only option really, and it was there was a point where we were like, do we either just shut up, disband, or do we have a go at like starting a studio?
Yeah.
And so we thankfully decided to start a studio, and we kind of like, and it, you know, Sam and James was an animator. He was like, I'll be an EP. Sam was an MD, and Sam is an animator, designer. Like he directed. He's now a director again, but he was like, I'll be the producer to start with. Like I'll make that sacrifice, and then, but I want to just to know that like once we get producing, I'm gonna get back into directing. And like those guys made a big sacrifice when I think about it now to kind of get us off the ground. I think my advice going to anyone starting is that like that sacrifice will continue. You know, like we're all doing things now that like, even being a director, like maybe something Wes can speak to more than me because I don't direct anymore. Like I've now become the executive creative director. So I'm overseeing creative and directors in the company. So like I got into the industry because I'm terrible at writing. I like drawing. I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to be creative. That's all I do is type emails, do calls. I don't direct anymore. Like I enjoy what I do.
You're directing now though.
Huh?
You're directing now.
I'm kind of like sneakily co-directing on a project.
Sneaking it back in.
But it's like when in terms of like my day-to-day of what I thought I would do.
Generally, it's not what you're,
No, and even if you're direct, like Wes is probably, out of all the founders, along with Max, maybe is probably the more full-time director. Like, it's probably not what you thought it was going to be in terms of like you, like being as creative. Like, you know, when we started, the philosophy was, and when we got our first studio space was, you work 6 months of the year, you create for yourself 6 months of the year. And when we started the company, we were like, let's continue that philosophy, but we can just back ourselves now. We can pay for our own projects. Like the reality of the situation is like, you now employ people, they've all got families, mortgages, like you need to keep that money coming in. So that gets, the actual real creative side gets put on the back burner. And it can be frustrating, and it can be beautiful when you get the opportunity to do things like Wes has had with Piton. But like in the 10 years that we've run the studio, you've made one short, right?
One, yeah.
For yourself personally,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is like doesn't feel like enough. You know, I did one that was like 25 seconds 8 years ago. That doesn't feel like enough. So like, I would say to anyone looking to start a studio or anything close to what we're doing is like, you just got to be prepared that like, either don't make the same mistakes we've made. Just because we've done it doesn't necessarily mean like you'll make that mistake, but it's a pitfall you've got to watch out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. We never really had anyone saying anything like that to us.
I think it's like, I would say, and I can only say this looking back, but I would say it's more succession planning.
Yeah.
Because I think for you to do that thing, you have to replace you. You have to replace you. And that's like and you have to do that, I would say, relatively early actually, because the further you go in, the more money the company's making stuff, the harder it is to replace you and stuff. And now a part of the company relies on a me directing or a Tim EPing or a James MDing and stuff. So I think it's one of those things where it's like you've got to, and I think it's a conversation we're going to have amongst ourselves about how do we responsibly get back to that vision we have, because it's like when you hear companies like Pixar where they're like, we're never making sequels and it's all about this and it's all about that, and then you know how many years later Toy Story 5 is coming out. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, and I remember when they made Toy Story 2 or 3, I said, these guys, man, they lied to us. Even though the films were great, they weren't going to make sequels and stuff. But then you're in that situation, you're like, I can see why this happens.
I understand.
You know what I mean? It's not that they probably want to do it in this way. They probably want to have an original film by every director every year and stuff. But then once people start getting involved and you got to put food on the table more, it's different.
And also like talking about succession planning, like it's not like, you have to find people to take over your position, but also the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Pixar now as a case study. Like their films are flopping. You know what I mean? And like I'm not watching those films being like, I can't see why this isn't successful. I can see why, and it's because like they, as their, you know, whatever happened to John Lasseter, he left, and like other people are taking over and filling these things. It's like, did they do enough to kind of prep people coming up the line? They seem like at the beginning they were. I don't know if that's true now. And it's the same with us. Like, you know, like we're so, you know, we hold the company and the brand so dearly. Mm-hmm. You can't just hire someone who's going to care about the same way that you care in the founder. We thankfully have some people in the company coming up that like do care about that much. And I do see as a good fit to succeed us, but like that's really rare, you know what I mean? And like there's only a few, and like how, you know, if we're replacing 5 or 6 founders, like that's a really difficult thing to be able to do. And if you don't, then you've got to think about scaling down your operations a little bit or something like that. So it's really tricky. And even having those conversations in a day where you're thinking about it is time where you're not like, that might be a 2-hour conversation. That's 2 hours that I'm not drawing, that I'm not being creative or whatever, you know, it's just like business.
Yeah.
So I think the short answer to my long response is like, think about that. You know what I mean? Like when you're setting up something, like that is the reality of the situation. You're going to have to sacrifice some of the things that you think you're getting into the industry for if you're setting up a company, you know?
Yeah.
So in the early stages, what was your first individual projects and what did you learn from them?
I guess when we, like we said before, the first project we did together as a company was Easy. So it's a music video for Porter Robinson. But then I suppose a few years in after that, I did Ninja Rabbit, the Super Turbo Atomic Ninja Rabbit. So that was based on a comic I did when I was like 13 years old.
Let's not just slip right past that though, because how old were you when you started that comic? And then
I did it when I was I did the comic when I was 13.
So when you was 13, and again, when you spoke about animation when you was young, you never had the idea that you really believed in it and you was gonna do that yourself.
No, when I was younger, I draw for fun. I enjoyed making comics and playing Street Fighter and watching anime and all that. Like, I watched everything. I'd read like Marvel. Like, we'd get them. I was into Joe Mad. I was into J. Scott Campbell, but I was also into Akira Toriyama and Otomo. So I was into it all. You know what I mean?
Fast forward now, being from that 13-year-old child who would have never imagined that he would have got into animation at the time.
Yeah.
Fast forward now, you've created a short for that same comic book that you done when you was 13.
Yeah, it was, and again, it was more fun. I mean, even when we was going to do Ninja Rabbit, because me and Tim did the film Drawing Inspiration, and I wanted to do something a little bit more like, I think there's something about British animation that it has to, and I'm not knocking it, but it has to feel a certain way. So it has to feel like Snowman and I'm like, but I'm interested in Thundercats and I want to do that. And people in Britain weren't doing things like that. So I'm like, this is what I grew up with. This is what I love. This is what I want to do. It's not cool. It's probably not going to get an award or anything like that, but that's what I wanted to do. So I actually had another comic that I did when I was about 17, 18 that I wanted to do like a little short intro for. And then I brought like loads of comics into the studio and Tim was going through them and Tim saw, I had like different crazy ideas. Like I had one with some guy from the hood and he was called the 8-Ball Ninja and he had the 8-ball jacket on and he had like a ninja mask and stuff. And then Tim was like going through it and then Tim was like, oh, what's this? And I was like, oh, that's Ninja Rabbit. But I had no interest in doing that because it felt too much like Samurai Pizza Cats and Usagi or Jimbo and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, no, this is a really good one. And I was like, no, I want to do Sanyo because Sanyo was a bit more developed. But I think the problem with Sanyo is that it didn't have the naive, like I was a bit more seasoned. I wasn't like amazing, but I was more seasoned. And that had like the naiveness of, or the naivete of the time where, you know, anthropomorphic animals and...
I do have to say that hearing you mention Samurai Pizza Cats lets me know you're a real one.
Yeah, bruv, I was like, I did a Street Fighter comic. So it was Street Fighter characters, but they looked like pizza cats. I'll have to show it to you. So I was really into... In fact, Samurai Pizza Cats was probably the first time I realized that anime, or there's a certain type of animation that was done in Japan.
Right.
Because it was always something I gravitated towards. Like I said, I watched everything, but things like Mysterious Cities of Gold, Ulysses, or if you look at like, you know, the Dennis the Menace cartoon, the intro of it, it's got a very Japanese feel to it, even though it's a Western. Thundercats was very different.
Yeah.
And it's only when Samurai Pizza Cats came out, I'm seeing all the Japanese, and I'm like, is this dude, and we didn't have the internet at the time, but I started to see a trend. And then a few years later, when Fist of the North Star came out and Akira, that's when I could see the link between them. So yeah, but like I said, when I was younger, I wasn't thinking I'm going to be an animator. I just loved this stuff and I love drawing, you know, and there was no internet at the time. There was no distractions. So you could, you know, when you're watching something, I'd get up in the morning, Saturday morning or before school, watch some cartoons, then there's nothing. Whereas today, it's just in abundance. But I'd be like drawing. Sometimes I'd be watching something on the TV. I'd pause it, draw it, play, pause, draw it again. So,
and I think that's what was interesting about Ninja Rabbit is that it felt like a snapshot of a moment in time to a young mind being inspired by what he was seeing. Whereas like that, and it, I'm not saying any of the other comics didn't have it, but like that was it in its purest form. And there was something kind of like, not like funny about it, but like charming about it out of everything. And it just resonated. And it's like, we've all done that. Like, we've all like, as a kid being like, what's Turtles? And I'm like, I'm going to do Teenage Mutant Ninja, whatever, like Cats or something. You tweak one thing and it's different. And like this had like, you were actually like really clever with the way you disguised the title. You know what I mean? There's like Super Turbo Atomic Ninja Rabbit. It's like, it screamed of, there you go. It screamed of like someone who was inspired by that kind of like Biker Mice for Mars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but then also someone who was in
Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah.
But also interested in Samurai Pete's Cats. And it just was like, it had all these ingredients, but was sort of none of them at the same time. Like maybe Usagi Yojimbo is the closest, but like he was just like, that wasn't like a big popular thing to us. Like,
No, that was like, I didn't even know that was his own thing. Like Usagi Yojimbo was in an episode of Ninja Turtles, and I just wanted to keep drawing my own version of that rabbit sort of thing. It's only like years later I found out that it was done by Stan Sakai, who was the creator of it. So it was a cameo appearance. So.
Oh, this is really cool, man, because it just goes to show, don't give up on something that you've started. You know what I mean? Like, you've done this when you was 13. Tim was able to see the magic in it, even at the time.
I don't want to take credit. I mean, we all sort of looked at it.
Yeah, we did, but like again, like it was. I wanted to do this thing like with the Sanyo because that was more inspired by Dragon Ball. Right? I was like, I saw Dragon Ball when I was about 14, and then for about 7 or 8 years, that was my style. I didn't look at anything else, right? So I really wanted to do that, but then I think I'm glad I didn't because again, that has the sort of, I think like Tim said, it captured the moment. It's got, the references are very, very clear in it. And I think even making it, I had to tap into that 13-year-old where when I was trying to write it, like it took me about a year where I just couldn't get anything out. And I was talking to Tim about it and like, this is such a struggle. And he was like, and I remember thinking, how did I do this at 13? It's like, well, that's the answer. It's like, think like a child. Mm-hmm. And I stopped thinking about it logically. I'm like, okay, well, what's his enemy? You can have an evil cow and an evil giraffe, and started doing stuff. And Tim was like, oh, you've got to do a toy like you'd want to play with. And I'm like, say less. And I create a tank, you know what I mean? So it just started spiraling, and there's nothing clever about it. It was just like, maybe like a stream of, I don't want to sound like all arty, but it was a bit of a stream of consciousness.
No, but like, there's no shame in kind of applying artistic methods to how you create. Like that's in, we are in art world. And I think that is important. Like thinking about it from like, you know, when you were a kid and you design your own trainers or like toys or whatever, like getting into that and tapping into that is like, makes so much sense, you know what I mean?
Right. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, so if we're not, you feel free to say, but the method that you guys use to put that out there, are we allowed to talk about that? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask you guys to explain how you rolled it out, because I think the rollout of it was quite interesting. We didn't know about that. So I think that was quite interesting. And I think that when you see people in your positions, I think the biggest thing that you have is you can always have the product, right? Everybody's got the product. How do you get the product to market? And I think you guys chose a very, very clever way to get that product to market in order to make a name for yourself and to kind of make it be seen and heard and make it loud. So take it away.
Well, I think with that film, it's, I always see it as one of the big 3. So there's 3 projects that we did, and I call them the soul projects, right? And it's that one is, well, Tim and Max directed Amara Warden's Joyride. It's just the little characters in the remote control car and everything I can see from here. So I think those 3 films are what the studio's foundation is built on. Like, you know, I don't want to speak for it. Huh?
No, I was going to say, everything I see from here, that was the BAFTA nominated one.
Yeah, that was the BAFTA nominated one. And I think with Ninja Rabbit, I just wanted to make a film. I just wanted to make something cool. I wanted to do 2 versions, one with the word ninja cut out because we got Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles and not ninja, because you weren't allowed to say ninja and all that kind of stuff. So I was going in that direction. I was more for the art of it. But then I think Tim and Max was more like, well, if you're going to make a second film, how about we do something to make people believe that this was a real cartoon? Now in my head, I'm like, you lot are mad. No. But if you think it's going to work, fine. I just want to focus on the film and stuff. So it kind of spiraled into this thing where they started creating assets and creating like a timeline before we dropped the film, like seeding things online. It's like about a year or 6 months before it came out, like putting things on blogs and backdating it to 2008 and, you know, creating fake lunchboxes and all this kind of stuff. And they basically came up with this, like we all worked on it together, but they came up with this campaign to support it. So even when I finished the film, we didn't release it till about 6 months and let people know we did it, which was painful. Because anytime you make something, you just want to put it out. But you could probably speak.
No, I think you sort of covered it. I guess I was interested in it as a hoax.
Right.
For me, I thought, because Wes's kind of philosophy with it was like, I want to make it in the same way that it would have had to have been made at the time when the comic was made. So, comic's 93?
I think so. 93, 91.
So what limitations did they have in 93 in terms of making something?
No 3D.
No 3D, couldn't do elaborate comping, all this kind of stuff. So we could, if we approached it in the same way and made it look like Cell, we could put it out and maybe convince people that this is from that time. And wouldn't that be funny if like someone could watch it? We did it so well and seeded all these kind of like ideas online that someone could watch it and go, yeah, I do remember that. Like, this is an interesting experiment. Like, it was that nostalgia that someone could like think they remembered it, and that was all I was hell bent on.
And what was the response from the viewership?
People thought they remembered it.
Some people thought they remembered it.
There was mainly this kind of thing, and like you say, like where you introed it was like we wanted to market it in a different way. Like, I don't think we did. I don't think we approached it like, wouldn't this be an interesting way of marketing? It was like, this would just be quite fun and funny to do.
And I see that in quite a few of your projects. Like, you guys come from a fun standpoint rather than...
I think you have to. I really think you have to. I think if you try... I think that's one of our like biggest failures, actually, that we got bigger, is that now we're thinking about marketing. We never thought about marketing. Like, we didn't have to justify it because we weren't essentially paying for it. It was like our own time. Wes is like, if you can be bothered to do this, like...
Listen, I've always said, if we tried to make that film today, based on our current way of thinking, looking at things, it just wouldn't be made. Do you know what I mean? It was almost naive the way we did it. Like, but again, we had, you know, like people are older now, people have got kids in the partnership and stuff as well, mortgages. So, but back then it's like, you're in your bedroom working on stuff and, do you know what I mean? So it's like, you're not thinking about, you're thinking about the project, and you're thinking about yourself in a way where it's like, this is fulfilling
what you want to do,
my dream, whatever. And it just so happens that people buy. I think people buy into passion, man. I think you can tell when, it's like when, you know, someone's first album is always banging, it's lit, and then a few albums down, like it's technically good and something's there, but then it feels like something's missing.
But now they've got like a wicked studio, and then that like marketing, and then like, well, if we're spending all this money on marketing, we need to make sure it does make this money back, and like then it's all about like making tracks more generic, but then we make sure it gets the sales through all the marketing. It's like, just spend the money or the time on the album or whatever, and I feel like I understand now, having a company, how that can happen. It's like, I don't think it's that deep with us, but like I can see how it happened. Whereas when we were marketing, we weren't thinking about marketing. The result being like, it was so weird what we did that it got picked up by like 4chan, and they were like, there was two sides of it. It was like one side of people were going, this is clearly a hoax, but why the fuck has someone done this? Let's try and find out who the hoax was. And other people being like, no, I think this is genuine. Let's try and dig out if it's real. And then they were finding all the breadcrumbs we left on the internet. Nice. And there was this whole kind of like debate that, you know, 4chan, after a day, like if someone stops responding or a few days, the channel becomes dormant. People were reactivating it and starting a new thread, and like we were being like hunted. And it was kind of like, we didn't plan that. You could never plan it. If you tried to plan that, you wouldn't accomplish it. You know what I mean? It's like, you just got to come at it from the right point of view, thinking you're doing something fun. And like, even if that never had happened, I still had fun doing it. We still had fun making the film. We still had something we were really proud of. Like, that's kind of how you got to approach it, I think.
No, that's kind of a lot of the story so far has been quite funny, to be fair, even that how you started. But I want to know a bit more about, you've told us the inspiration about Ninja Rabbit. I want to know the story behind Everything I See From Here. Because when I watched that gave me Samurai Jack vibes. There's hardly any talk. There's no talking in it.
Yeah.
And animation style and the sound engineer that you sort of used reminded me of Samurai Jack. Like when random stuff's happening and you like might hear like even if it's like a whistle sound, you see Jack turn around. But
Yeah. Samurai Jack
is
Brilliant.
is fantastic, man. Gendy's a genius, man. This is so good.
I recently rewatched it, to be fair.
Yeah, it's so good.
I haven't seen it in years. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's probably more for like Sam and Bjorn who aren't here. I don't really. I think there's two catalysts for that. One was the iPad had just come out, so they were like, "Why do you have to tell?" And everyone was like looking stuff on smartphones. Why do we need to tell a story 16:9? Why can't it be like 9:16?
Okay.
That seems like the way medias are going. So they weren't wrong. And the other thing was like, well, the story has to be about something vertical happening. So I think Sam had this, it's almost like a gag, I think originally. It was like, what if a kid kicked the ball up in the air and the ball didn't come down? Why didn't it come down? And then it was like, well, maybe an alien got it. And then, or is the alien good or bad? Or does he want to play football with them? And then I think it kind of like escalated from there. And I think something that was supposed to be like a minute ended up being 9 minutes. Or something like that.
It took like 2 years.
It was the shock factor of me. It was the dog and the ball.
Yeah.
That was the shock factor.
I animated that scene.
Is it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was gonna ask, is that anything to do with your dog?
No. This is way before. But
So for those who don't know, definitely go look it everywhere I see from here. But there's a scene in it where they're curious about the alien playing with the football, and literally the dog comes, because you know how dogs are, and the alien just turns, shoots a blasting ray at the dog. The dog
the sound effects on that is gnarly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm like,
That's Box of Toys. We worked with them we worked with them from the beginning, you know what I mean? But also that film as well, because I'm sure they tried to make it in university and they weren't allowed to. But it was stopped.
I think they wanted to. No, I think they both wanted. I don't know if it was that film, but they both wanted to be directors at university.
No, I'm sure that
Okay.
film was, they wanted to make it, but the tutor said, no, you can't make it because it's too long or it's too ambitious and stuff.
Okay,
So
right.
I think they were a little bit frustrated as well. So they went to, and I think that's the thing with creativity as well. When I know I tend to make stuff when I'm frustrated. When I start to get frustrated, it's like, right, I'm going to do this. Like, everyone get lost. I want to do my thing and stuff.
Next time on Nani Talks.
was there ever a point in time where you guys were like, you know what, is this thing working out?
This is a deep question, man. There's probably one time I can remember with myself, we were going from a collective to the studio and we were like working with another company. It wasn't working out. And I was a big believer that this is not what we should be doing. And I remember just saying, if you lot want to continue like this, I can't.
In that period, as Tim was saying, that could have been the end of the line.